Hello everybody, this is SMK here, and today I'm going to do a commentary here over this match that I did really well in. The main thing I want to talk about is flanking. Okay, the topic today is flanking. And the reason I want to talk about flanking is because 95%, at least 95% of the Uncharted 4 multiplayer base, it really feels like they don't know about the concept of flanking. It's almost like people are so used to Uncharted 2 and 3 or how other shooters are that they just rush in. They just go in head on towards the other team and either die or they narrowly escape to go and heal. And so the reason I want to talk about this is because, again, like I said, I've noticed a lot of the players on this game, they don't seem to understand that concept of flanking. So the very first important thing to mention is that at the start of every game, you might notice me do this already in these matches, but at the start of every game, instead of going for the treasure, I recommend you go around and you go the opposite direction. Always go the opposite direction of where the treasure is and go around to behind the other team. Because 90% of the time, that team is going to be held off at the treasure by your teammates. And that lets you either support your teammates and clear off anyone that is giving them trouble, or you will help them in being able to advance in on the team because you'll take out one or two people, and then they'll be able to take out the other three that are left. And so like that's a really important way to begin the first play of the game. And a really helpful part of this of figuring out like, okay, where is the other team going to be, is that when you play on the maps, if you pay attention to where you spawn on the heroes or villains side, that should help you have, mental information on whereabouts the other team might be at the start of every game. So, like, for example, on rooftops, there's a spawn at the beginning where heroes spawn. I believe the heroes spawn on the roof by the treasure that spawns there, and then the villains spawn by the two towers. If you spawn there, you know that the heroes, or the villains, I forget which, spawn by the two towers. There's the situation where it's like that. And so what you do is, instead of going towards the treasure like an idiot, instead turn around and run all the way towards the two towers. It'll take you 5 seconds to get over there, and you'll already more than likely see the other team, jumping across with the grappling hook towards the small room area, that museum-like area, and 9 times out of 10 you'll be able to sneak up behind them and start picking them off without them being able to react in time. And so, like, it's instances like that where, like, knowing the spawns for both teams is really important at the beginning anyway. It's impossible to know the spawns as the matches are playing out, but beginning spawns is definitely important. So whenever you play this game, pay attention to where you spawn on the map and where you think when you're a villain you spawn on the map, or whatever the opposite team is at the time. Like, if you're villains, think of where the heroes might spawn when you usually play heroes on that map, and then go around and flank. So that's some really important information you need to keep in mind, is where teams spawn at the start of the game. It's really helpful. You should really pay attention to that. I'm pretty sure most people still don't, and we're already almost 6 months into this game's release. Yeah, we're almost 6 months into it. It's 5 months, I guess. It's going to be 5 months because the game came out in May. Alright, so we're 5 months in, and people still aren't really paying attention to any of that kind of, like, mental information, that knowledge. Again, start learning that now. Learn where the heroes and villains spawn on each map, and learn, like, okay, what's the opposite spawn for this? What's the opposite spawn for this map? Etc., etc. Okay, so then the next thing I wanted to get into about flanking is that when you see your teammates are struggling against another team, and it's, like, let's say it's in the middle of a game, instead of rushing in there like an idiot, go around. take the opposite route. Go around. Yes, I know that it takes longer to go around, and sometimes by the time you've gone all the way around, the enemy team has already moved on. You still will be able to advance on them without them knowing of your presence, at least unless they have a staff out. But if they have a staff out, then you just need to be even more careful, basically. But if you go all the way around, you should 90% of the time, as long as your teammates are keeping them at bay, you should be able to help them out and pick off a couple before they realize you're there and probably take you out shortly. But the damage you'll do will be incredibly helpful to them to to move on and finish the enemy team and get them out of wherever they're at, and then get to the treasure that may or may not be behind the enemy team. So that's really important, again, to the flanking strategy. You just gotta know the routes. You gotta know the routes, the fastest ways to get there. Sometimes it's impossible to get there fast, like on Sunken Ruins. If they're in this middle room, for example, and you want to get behind them instead of from the sides, you have to go all the way around. There's no way to cut around it. You got to go all the way around. Taking the slopes is very unsafe. The slopes into the water is very unsafe because they can hear you slide down and hit the water. So you got to go all the way around. Otherwise, you are risking it by taking the slopes to try and shortcut the flanking. And sometimes you just have to take the long route. You'll just have to, bear with it and take the long route. So that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about, was just like how important flanking is to this game, because in Uncharted 2 and 3 you really couldn't. I mean, you could flank, but you didn't need to actually be successful. You could rush in there head first and take on 3 to 4 people, because if you might have a power weapon, you might have basically you might have a power weapon, or in Uncharted 3's case, you might have a kickback that lets you spawn a power weapon and take out 3 to 4 people on your own. But in this game, you can get taken out very easily by multiple people, and you don't really have much you can do about that. So yeah, hopefully this video was insightful. This commentary was insightful and helpful to you, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Later.